Boom. Tuesday, 7th of February, 2023. You're here for another episode of the Tiger Town podcast, episode 4 for the year, Toby. Are we up to 4 already?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, Toby, hi, how you going? You are there. Good
Yeah.
evening, sir.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're episode 4, which is yeah, it's flown by.
Flying. Time flies when you're not having fun.
Oh, we'll be having fun this week.
Tiger Town podcast where two fellas, normally in hats, tonight wearing polo shirts, sit down and have a bit of a yarn about the West Tigers and everything to do with the West Tigers. Why? Because we love them.
Yeah, for good or bad.
Rightio, sir. What's been happening? Speaking of having a yarn, how's your week been? What's been doing?
Oh, mate, just prepping for baby number 2. Should be, geez, could be any day now. So that'll be interesting one. Might have a screaming baby in the background next pod, which will be funny. But apart from that, just plugging along at work. What about yourself?
Yeah, much of the same. Without the preparing for baby number 2 in the immediate future. But other than that, yeah, work is work. And got to be honest with you, getting a couple of little rumbles in my nether regions in terms of the countdown to the season proper, and with football just around the corner, the tingles are happening. I'm getting excited. The intonation in my voice is going up. It's nice.
It's very, very nice. It's
How good? How good is this time of year? The anticipation's building, isn't it?
oh, it is. It is. And now with all the preseason games being televised, I remember, back in the day we used to, we were stoked if there was one preseason game on Fox Sports. I remember years and years ago we ended up going, like, we didn't have Foxtel at the time, and you and I went to my brother's house who had Foxtel just to watch a Tigers game in preseason.
Yeah, you're saying that as years and years ago. Like, we throw it back even further. We're old enough to remember, and not saying we're old enough to remember that, like I used to, Sundays for me in the season proper, this is the proper NRL or ARL round. I'd be listening to ABC Radio 92.3 on the mid to north coast of New South Wales on a Sunday, waiting for the score updates for Around the Grounds with Peter Pasolsis or whoever was doing the Around the Grounds, because they weren't televising that game, or it was the earlier games, maybe on the Sunday, and the main radio game wasn't even your team's game. So you were listening for the updates every 5 to 10 minutes, and that was how you actually followed the game.
Jesus, you've got a memory.
Oh, that was my childhood, like, and much later in terms of age than you might think. That was every Sunday. I'd be listening there on the radio, and that was only if your team didn't get a run on a Friday or a Sunday afternoon on Channel 9 on the actual games, which is the 4 o'clock, and this was back on Friday night footy days, so they had one game at 7:30.
Yeah. Then when they decided to do the 2 games, one at 7:30, one at 9:30, you'd turn off the news so they didn't ruin it.
Yeah. Apologies, it was the 8:30 game, because Better Homes and Gardens used to be on 7:30 when they only had one on a Friday night. I remember that for years. Like, that was years. And that was childhood.
Yeah.
And I reckon that's good English, Zach. I'd say that it would have even been the case that that was mid-late 90s, when the teams, maybe post-Super League or even pre-Super League, where there were more teams. There was 20 teams in the ARL at one point.
Yeah.
At the Crushers and the Rams and the Mariners, and even across Super League and ARL.
The merger happened, and then
Balmain and the Magpies, and
when the merger of the NRL and the Super League happened, there was like 20 teams.
That's right, yeah. For 1 year.
Yeah.
I think they only lasted 1 year, and then they dropped the Rams, the Mariners, the Crushers,
the Reds,
the Chargers. Yeah, because Gold Coast themselves were out of the comp for a little while before they came back as the Titans, weren't they?
Yeah, they didn't come back until 2007, I think.
7, yeah.
Yeah.
So they were the Giants, and then the Seagulls. I remember them fondly as the Seagulls.
So do I.
Seagulls, and that was a good color strip.
Oh no,
white,
I probably remember
grey,
more as
black,
the
and red.
Crushers. I remember more as the Crushers
And
when
then
Wally was there.
Seagulls became the Crushers. No, sorry. Seagulls became the Chargers, which was aqua and black.
Yeah.
I remember that Wes Patton played for Balmain. He went and played for the Chargers. The South Queensland Crushers was the second Brisbane team,
Ah.
which was the like goldy mustard color. Yeah. Um, yeah.
Sorry,
And then
I've still got a cough, people. So if you
no,
hear
no, right, you're still
coughing,
carrying it. If you hit mute, yeah, all good.
yeah.
Yeah. And then you had the Rams and the Mariners that just looked like that same curvy, spiky outfit that you'd buy from one of those pre-made jersey companies these days, just with
Yeah.
different colors.
Hey,
Um,
you can't like there's a couple of jerseys out there that would still run rings around. Like if you talk about the worst jerseys in history, I don't know how you can go past the Broncos checkered, the Diamonds. Whoa, they were
oh,
shit.
really? People love that. The old Travel World one. That's a vintage. I reckon there's been a lot worse than that. They themselves had a, yeah, you're still carrying a bit. You're still struggling a bit there, mate.
Yeah.
I think the Broncos at one stage had like an aqua blend. They went weird at one point. Anyway,
Yeah, I
I
remember
always,
turquoise.
yeah, like a turquoise color.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, it was weird, and like they had pink piping or like a, I don't know. They went a bit funky in the mid 2000s. The
Yeah.
Western Reds I always liked. I always thought they were, I don't know. They just something about them. There's something about the fact that Perth could have a team. Western Reds is a great name, great title, great mascot. Their colours were cool. They were ARL, so they weren't the sleek polyester Super League flashy designs. It was the big heavy cotton jerseys.
Yeah, cotton
No,
jerseys were the way to go, weren't
yeah,
they?
I like Western Reds. Same way that I still like the old North Sydney Bears, the concept as a club. But um, anyway, yeah. Speaking of old times, is a good little segue.
Yeah, Jesus, we just went down a trip down memory lane, didn't we?
Absolutely, that's good. That's what
Why
it's
not?
about. Like we said, having a yarn. That's
Yeah,
what we're here for.
what we do.
Speaking of what we're here to talk football. And guess what's coming up? Well, by the time this comes out, it'll be tomorrow on Thursday, the 9th of February. Toby, guess what's happening on Thursday, the 9th of February?
I think there's a darts championship on.
There is. I'm glad you brought that up. That's what we're going to talk about tonight.
I don't even know if there is a darts championship going on, but if
Yeah,
there,
there is. Eagle van Malsen versus Sebastian von Klaut.
you just made those names up.
I did. Pretty impressive, right?
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
No, our preseason starts. Our preseason starts. The preseason starts. There's football on Thursday. Who's excited? Put your hands up. I see you out there. I see all of you. Okay. West Tigers play the Warriors. Well, is it the West Tigers? Is it the Warriors? Probably our B through G squad, maybe.
We got some players in there that that are probably likely to make the first grade side.
Explain to our listeners how this first trial normally works, Tobe.
9 times out of 10, the first trial is your reserve grade team getting a bit of miles in their legs.
Not only that, not only reserve grade, but what your fringes, your up and comers.
Yeah, your flags, things like that. They get a bit of miles in their legs. Get ready for what may come. Yeah, but in saying that, you have a look at the Warriors sheet on paper. That doesn't look like a B grade squad to me. They're going a bit hard out already.
Yeah, they got a couple of first graders in there for sure. But I guess in many ways, so do we. Our back five have all played NRL football. Charlie Staines, Junior Tupou, Asuka Poa, Tommy Talau.
Mm.
So I guess in that sense. Yeah, so being that it's an opportunity for young up-and-comers or a few journeymen to get a bit of a run, try out a few combinations. Usually these are people on the periphery of the first grade squad. Either they're training trials or they're someone who is in the, I guess, spots 18 through 30 of the squad, probably not the top 17, or maybe possibly top 17 coming back from injury. They want to see a few combos. They just want to see what they've got and they'll play around with a few things. Largely the trials aren't taken overly serious. And then particularly the first one. And the second one, they'll start to put in some of our better combinations, possibly hold back a couple of our super key players. But yeah, just another chance to sharpen up the tools a little bit more, what you might be expecting to see in terms of most of the players come round one. And then obviously we have a couple of weeks off and then we start at the beginning of March with round one against the Titans at Leichhardt Oval. So I might just very quickly run through who we've named. And then we can start to break it down, talk about it, and mention, yeah, basically provide a bit of commentary on the squad that's been named. So we've got Charlie Staines at fullback, Junior Tupou and Liam Scolari on the wings. I'll talk a bit more about him in a second. Asu Kapoa, Jake Kapoa, and Tommy Talau in the centres. Good to see Tommy Talau back named in a West Tigers jersey. Now, 5'8", we've got Tristan Riley. Number 7, new addition, Brandon Wakeham out of the Bulldogs. Stefo Toikamanu, captaining the side, the big fella from prop. And starting up front with Asatasi James. We've got Jakey Simpkin as the starting hooker. Brandon Toomuth signed on, or re-signed, young fella last year. Fanua Pole is actually featuring in the second row in the trial. I think there's a few whispers about him.
Probably a prop, which is interesting.
Yeah, there was a few whispers at the back end of last season into the start of the pre-season that he may be tested there. So I guess we get a chance to see a few bits and pieces. Justin Matamua locking the scrum, who we're familiar with, made his debut last year. Jareen Buller, we've mentioned. We'll talk a bit more about him on the bench. Number 15, Jordan Hill. 16, Trey Penny. And 17, Josh Falidi, who we've mentioned in the last couple. Few names coming down here you may or may not recognise. Christopher Fa'agutu, Sione Vahu, Zane Camero, Sione Fainu, Rua Nadikura, Alex Seyfarth, and Tony Suka, or Tennis Suka. It rounds out the 24 extended squad. Now, largely with these trials, we have a bigger squad, and you'll see quite a few players get a run and get a few minutes. Let's. How do you want to do it, mate? We'll work our way top to bottom and
yeah,
make a few comments about what you want to see.
I'd say so.
So look, Charlie Staines at fullback.
Yeah, that's not a surprise. No surprise. Yep. Laurie's obviously, it's tipped that Laurie will get the starting position become round one, but he's also in the Indigenous camp at the moment, so that's his trial run. So no surprise there.
Yep. Yeah, and I think perfect opportunity to see Staines have a run in that starting fullback position and just see how he goes. I guess as you said, between him and Laurie, they're the two that have been running that position over the off-season, so this is his opportunity. And then we'd assume Dane gets through All-Stars okay, fingers crossed, touch wood. He'll probably get a run in that second trial, you'd think.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say, more to the point, can't remember if you actually mentioned it, but you probably did. The second trial is more of what the first grade side will look like. So, we dare say that if he pulls up unscathed through the Indigenous round, he'll at the Indigenous All-Stars game, he will be there next week at number 1. We dare say.
Yeah, Tim seems to be the scuttlebutt out of the club that he's going to get first dibs. On first wing, Junior Tupou.
Yeah, he's been there before. You and I both agree that most likely Mamalo and Nofa will get first crack. So, I'd really like to see more of him. I think that he has huge potential. It's just, last year I would have said, are we the right club to bring that out of him? But, with Sheensy back and everyone really harping on the pathways and the junior development, maybe he gets a bit more, he progresses a bit more this year.
Yep. Definitely an athletically gifted young man, to say the least, but he's only, I think he was 19 last year, so that'd make him 19 turning 20 this year, I'd assume. So still quite young. Yeah. AJ Kapoa, we know what we get with AJ Kapoa.
Yeah.
Same thing, still quite young. I think that he made quite a few mistakes as he was learning his craft, but I started to like the look of him over the course of last year. Still had a silly mistake or two in him. But I found that over the course of last year, he started to become more and more of a solid first grader.
Yeah, and when he first came into grade with us, he was put on the wing, and you and I both agreed his size, his structure, and I guess the way he plays was so much more suited to a center position. So it's good to see that they're sticking with that and not going, oh, we'll just put him on the wing. So
Yeah, he's an out and out centre for sure.
yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of these backline players, generally speaking, can play a couple of the other positions at a pinch. They're footballers, most of them are able to, but yeah, I think that some people have, or most people have specialist positions that either they've played simply specialists because they're suited or because they've played most of their footy there. And he most definitely seems to be a centre.
Yeah, I'm just going to agree.
Number 4, Tommy Talau. So big fella. He's back from what would have been now just about 18 months since he's laced on a boot in a match.
Did he do it in the preseason last year, or did he do it in training?
He did his in the final round of
Well,
2021.
it's Blore that did his in the preseason, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep. So, the last round of 2021 and sat out all last season. And, a bit of a fairly long road back.
Yeah, a lot longer than a lot of ACLs, isn't it? You'd know more than I would.
Well, to be honest, it's a similar time frame to when I did mine 10 years ago. And that wasn't by design. It was just similar in that it was a mid-year injury, sat out the following year, and then started the following year afterwards. So it's generally a long layoff for a rugby league player. These days tend to get them back around that 9-month time frame, depending on how the games and the season lines up. So I think it just worked out that way. He probably could have played. I think we had word that he was able to play in the last 4 to 6 weeks of the season last year, but being that it was a bit of a dead rubber of a season, the way it was going, I think they just made the decision to keep him on ice for the long term. But by all reports, he's flying.
Yeah. I've heard he's training the house down and working really closely with Benji. I've heard. So that's very interesting. So
he's someone who I kind of forget what he brings. I know intellectually what he brings, is in I can forcibly bring up the memories and footage of him playing, but in terms of a feel for a player that we get when we're watching them throughout a season, or we've seen them regularly and recently, I've lost the feel for what Tommy Talau is as a player. So I'm excited to see him back in a few games again, hopefully getting through and the injury issues are behind him.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm keen to see him back in a jersey. A lot of people don't know that he actually started off as a 5'8", so he's got the ball skills, and put him out and give him a bit of space. Maybe he can prove something again.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it'd be exciting to see him back. So speaking of ACLs, as we're known for our killer segues. Next winger, I should say, is Liam Scolari. So Liam Scolari is a West junior that has come through and set out last season, as far as I'm aware. I think he actually did his either the start of last season New South Wales Cup or Flegg, or he did it pre-season similar to Blore. We had a really rough run, and I think he was one of them. And so he's going to get a start. I would compare Liam Scolari to a Josh Mansour early career style player. Like a early Kotrick style player. So, solidly built, standard height, decent size, aggressive. He's not your, I guess, long, tall, lopey winger. He's not a Israel Folau athletic freak style winger, but he's relatively compact. He's solid. He's quick, and he's aggressive. So,
would you compare him to like a Justin Carney? That build.
If I recall, Justin Carney.
He played for the Roosters.
The Roosters?
Yeah, he played for the Roosters in the NRL.
Yeah.
Made a name for
maybe like Shannon Haggerty-esque in some ways.
Yeah.
That's similar, just hustling, bustling, hard to tackle, ants, spiders on him sort of bloke. So anyway, we'll see a bit of him on Thursday. So hopefully he comes back and hits the ground running. Tristan Riley's a name we've mentioned at number 6 in the last couple of pods, not in the most glowing terms. So Tristan came across from the extended Waratahs squad in Union. And I think he didn't play for Randwick. I'm not sure what club he played for in A grade rugby. Had a few starts with the Waratahs. I don't know whether he was currently with their extended squad or if he was currently cut, as in he had played a season or two beforehand. Anyway, came across, signed a top 30 as a centre primarily, and debuted last year. Got a run in New South Wales Cup in a handful of games. I don't know that the side was going particularly well because the first grade squad was going pretty average.
Yeah.
They been decimated by injury and whatnot. We had people missing left, right, and centre. So New South Wales Cup squad was stripped, and that was up. He was trying to relearn the game. I think he played league when he was a junior, so I don't think he had the best really start in as a centre. But they've been running him at 5'8" in the preseason, and I don't have any feedback on how he's going. So
Yeah, I didn't even know they were trialing him at full.
yeah, so I
5'8".
guess we'll see. Proud Indigenous fella Tristan, so he hangs out with Dano and the boys and that, and yeah, it will be interesting to see. It'd be good. It'd be good to see what he's got. See if he have some playmaking ability, or whether they've just popped him in there as I guess, a stopgap, like a centre, filling as a stopgap. Yeah, we'll see. Brendan Wakeham. So we've seen a little bit of Brendan Wakeham, NRL experience, obviously playing at halfback. Be good to see a halfback play halfback, which would be nice. I mean, short of him signing last week, was that just last week or the week before, perhaps?
The week before, I think.
We wouldn't have actually had a proper halfback being able to start in this first trial. So at least we've got a substitute in there that can fill in, and be interesting to see how he goes.
Yeah, sorry, didn't realize that was a question. Thought that was rhetorical. Thought it was
No,
more.
it was more of a statement, but I open the floor to you.
Yeah, it'll be like you said, we've seen what he can do at an NRL level. He hasn't set the world on fire. If he did, he would have been probably retained by the Bulldogs or signed somewhere else. But yeah, it's good to, like you said, have a halfback in the halfback position, not have I guess I don't know, just someone just to fill that spot while we train someone else or build someone else into that position. But
yeah,
I'm very keen. Like, just back to Tristan Riley, I was just thinking about it then. It was like, I remember vividly back when Chrissy Lawrence was coming through. He played a couple of games at 5'8", and I don't know. It was Gus Gould said it, and Gus Gould compared a lot of players to Laurie Daly or Brad Fittler. They're the only two he ever really compared anyone to. But he said that he's strong and plays a lot like Laurie Daly and everything like that. So that's a centre playing at 5'8". It'd be interesting if it's that's more of what Tristan Riley brings, is just that ball running strong 5'8" coming to the fray. So
which in many ways that's Adam Dewey, Jack Whiten style.
Yeah.
Bigger body, they're runners first. Even Dylan Brown for that matter. Like, they're all different, but yeah, we'll see. Big Steph, captain, prop. What do you think? I'll put it this way. What do you think Steph is hoping to get out of this season?
I think he's
compared to last.
First and foremost, I think he wants to stay injury free.
Yeah, I agree.
That extremely hampered his season last year. Like, he was like, what we saw in 2021 from Steph, he wasn't able to replicate that within the first rounds, but he started getting a feel for the game again, and then he got injured, and then he never really recovered. And
and then it was the same thing of going, well, we're not going to bring him back for 2 or 3 weeks at the end of the season in a dead rubber of a season. So there's quite a few players in that category.
Yeah, and like, you could tell how committed he was to playing, being healthy and playing a full season, with us being the fact that he had the opportunity to go play for Samoa over in the World Cup, turned it down. Said no.
Tonga, I think. I think he's Tongan.
One of them. Is he?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, playing for Tonga, and he turned it down, and he wanted to focus on
get himself right,
rehab and his rehabilitation. But I think he would also probably make it his mission to cement a starting spot. I think that's something that'll be a big achievement for him if he can do that.
Yeah, well, look, put it this way. He's one of the top 3 props that'll be picked, one of the first three. Whether he's the second out of three or the third out of three is how they want to play Joffa, in my opinion.
Yeah.
David Klemmer is the first prop picked. And then it's whether they are thinking Steph's right to start or Joffa's right to start in 8 or in 10, sorry. And the other proposition will be whichever way Sheens and crew want to go. Last couple of days, I've just been thinking that Klemmer and Joffa to start with Steph coming off the bench isn't a bad option. Steph and Pole.
No, so you mean 12 would miss out?
Yeah, possibly, or they play a third prop, knowing that Joffa could then move into possibly lock or even back up second row rotation if needs be. So, yeah, there's a few options there, but
yeah.
I like the idea of having Joffa and Clement to start with Pole and Steph on the bench. Just the punch you'll get out of those two off the bench, it will be unreal.
It'll be like back when we had Gavay and Tapau, Bash Brothers.
Yeah, except less one-dimensional and actually with motors and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, that 1-2 punch, I think it could be pretty great, to be honest. Jake Simpkin in 9. We sort of know what we get with Jake. Work in progress. Hopefully he's continued to develop. I really like him as a hooker. I think that he's keeping Talon De Silva's hooker seat warm until he arrives on the scene. But Talon's only turning 18. Or is 18 this year. So he's still a good 3-4 years away from playing regular first grade, particularly as a starter. So Jake could be with us for some time. He only re-signed last year, I think. So I think he's with us till the end of 2025 anyway. So he's still got another 2 years after us. So, and it may even be the case, to be honest, that he takes over Appy's mantle when Appy wraps up. And then Talon is Jake's backup, and then Talon takes over from Jake. So yeah, so everybody sort of thinking, us included, last year when talking about it, that he might be on the way out. I think the timeframes are going to marry up pretty well. That he's definitely in the club's plans. So I like what we see in Jake. I just think he needs to develop a bit more of a multi-dimensional approach to his hooking. So a bit more pass deception, maybe add a kick as well. Awesome runner and awesome vision and tough as nails.
I think personally, he is an awesome runner and he does have good vision. I think he's still young in the fact that he second guesses himself a bit too much. So you can tell sometimes the way he looks up, the way he wants to have a scoot, that he just doesn't trust himself, so he passes and offloads it when sometimes that's the right option to do. Like you get those confidence plays, like obviously your Appies, your even your Farahs back in the day and things like that. That it was just that confidence to know that even if you make the wrong decision, you back yourself.
Yeah.
Regardless, and he's still got to work.
I definitely agree. The body language, I think, with that shows. I think it's one part age, but I think, and your brother will love me saying this, is I think that he was very wary of going against the game plan under Madge coaching regime, which seemed very simplistic and very complete the 1%ers. So probably de-coached in terms of taking those risks and backing himself in those situations, which I think was probably one of his strengths. So his pointy edges were probably flattened out a little bit over the Madge's coaching tenure is the way that I sort of read it a bit. So hopefully he's encouraged to back himself and Benji pumps his tyres up a little bit over the next couple of years, because I know he's a really, really good hooker. I rate Jake Simpkin a lot.
We both are big fans of Jakey. So
Asatasi James. So I don't know if you know much about him. He's played a fair bit of New South Wales prop.
Yep.
Last year. Who could I liken him to? He's got a pretty decent motor on him. Who could I liken him to? I'm just trying to find something to make a comparison to. He's a pretty solidly built fella, Polynesian boy. Goes hard, so big impact. I think of Asatasi James. I don't know about his motor. I don't think he has a Fanua Pole Steph style 12 motor.
Yeah,
we've got a couple of props with big motors in our club. You can add Joffa and Clement at that mix. They all get through big minutes. That's a good thing for our side. But yeah, big impact, high impact, big, solid, strong fella. Bends the line, big line bender from what I've seen, especially in New South Wales Cup. So I think that's exciting. yeah, so we'll see. It'd be good to see him have a run. Brandon Toomuth,
Yeah, you've got big.
first, second row. Brandon Toomuth, yeah. And like I've said to you before, I'm only passing on what I've heard, but a lot of good judges have said that he's a very decent player. He's not particularly oversized as a second rower. He is only young, so he's probably still got a fair bit of growing to do, and a bit unassuming in how he looks. He doesn't
You know
look
who
anything
you
special.
just
I guess
described
like
then?
Johnny Bateman a bit. Hey?
You know who you just described then? Liam Fulton. That
Yeah,
is
there you go.
literally who you just described.
Yeah. But don't know, he's playing like, yeah, yeah. In terms of particularly how they look, and you I would assume that you would think the same thing about John Bateman if you look at him. Same sort of deal. Nothing particularly physically impressive just on face value, but that doesn't make a footy player, obviously. Termin's a competitor. He's hard. He's still growing. He's got a good offload on him, and I think he's just again, I think he's just tough as nails, and he's played plenty of representative football. I don't know if he's Australian schoolboy. I think he might have been, but he definitely played under. Well, he played flag Origin last year and did pretty well for them. So yeah, big raps, re-signed last year. That was a lot of toing and froing. They were pushing it for quite some time, and I think offering him a top 30 spot this year got him over the line. So he's re-signed for the next 2 seasons, as far as I am aware, this season and next. So good to see him. These younger guys, as we start to see them, whether it's trials or first grade, seeing them in games on TV is going to be much better, because me in particular, but you yourself as well, we're trying to piece some of this information between, um, you know, observations of other people online, cross correlate that, sitting down watching some Magpies highlights, or even some full games where possible, watching some junior football highlights and that sort of stuff. And it's not always the best indicator of where somebody's at or what the development is like, but better than nothing.
Exactly.
Other second row, we mentioned before, a bit of a funny one in that he's second row is Fanua Pole, but he's a pretty versatile bloke. Anything we've thrown at him, he's been able to handle it in spades. He's quickly becoming one of my favourite players in the current day squad, I've got to admit.
Yeah, no, I agree. When you say throw it at him, he can handle it. When they put him at lock, I wouldn't say he was fantastic. He defended well, but wasn't. Yeah, wouldn't say that he set the world alight. But it will be interesting to see him playing a bit of second row. Like, we know what he can do. Like, when you talk about line benders, he's a bloody line shatterer, basically. Always seems to take 2 or 3 with him. If you can imagine that on an edge, 1-on-1 with a halfback, probably could be pretty damaging.
He's got really good late footwork too, Fanua Pole.
Yeah, he does.
So if he's not coming off the back fence off a hit up, yeah, really, really short and sharp, really good quick footwork, and really, really fit bugger. Like he's solid, but he's just all muscle. A lot of fast twitch fiber.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, and then Justin Matamua, the next big thing in lock coming through in our grades. He played in the Tigers Cubs trip to New Zealand late last year, what age group was that? I'm trying to think. Whether it was 18s and below, under 18s, or maybe even SG ball and below, under 19s and below. Anyway, it was the Justin Matamua show. He just completely dominated this Warriors squad. Saw a taste of first grade last year. I don't think he looked out of place, to be honest.
No, I don't think so.
I'm a
He got sin bin
big
in the first
yeah,
5.
that was yeah. How good was that? I'm a big fan of Justin Matamua, and the reason that he is earmarked in the lock position moving forward for quite some time. He's not the only one. We'll get to another one in a second, but his skills with ball in hand are something to behold. I've seen it in games on TV, but yeah, from what you hear and read around the traps, he's a very, very silky player, but has the hard edge to match.
Yeah, he's I hear he's one of Benji's favorites too. So I think Benji's looking forward to, in a couple of years' time, to picking him as a starting lock. So
yeah. All right, into the interchange bench. And I think the interchange bench basically is just a big list of players, even though they've got them listed 14 to 17 and then beyond, because they've listed 4 backs on the traditional bench, and then you got a bunch of forwards. So first one is Jareen Buller. Just want to refresh everybody's memory from a couple of weeks back, Toby. Buller.
I was just going to say, just before that, in case anyone isn't aware of how the preseason challenge works, we have 28 players we can use an unlimited interchange. So everyone will get a run, but you're just not sure how. I dare say they'll probably all get a pretty even run, just to get.
Yeah, we've only picked 24.
We've only picked 20. Well, we can pick 28, which is interesting.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, we've only got
Probably.
24. Both sides have only got 24. I wonder if they've got an even more to add to that list, and it's just not on the website yet. I don't know.
Yeah, didn't even put two together with that, to be honest.
Mm.
Yes, sorry. Buller. Yes, this is the fullback that apparently is pushing Staines and Laurie for a position. Sheensy's very, very impressed with him, very excited about him. Until Sheen's brought up his name, I'd never heard of the kid. But Sheen's is a pretty good judge of character. So excited to see what he brings.
Yeah, same thing. And that's the benefit of these trials, particularly with them being televised, is that we're able to see firsthand a lot of the names that we hear, I guess, for 12, 18, 24 months leading up to seeing them for the first time. So it'd be good to see him. Jordan Hill is a winger from memory. I may have him confused, but I'm relatively certain Jordan Hill is a winger with big raps, quick, athletic. I'm not going to say, well, I'm going to say it, but then I'm going to backtrack. Think about a Greg Inglis style build. Now, that's not speaking to his football ability, but that's that type of player. That type of build, athletic wise. And I know that there were a lot of junior coaches. We lost him at one stage. I think he's a Queenslander, back to a Queensland club for a period of time, and I think they worked hard to get him back into the system. So he is back there now. So looking forward to seeing him have a run.
I've never heard of him. So
yeah, okay. Well, so Buller and Hill, whether Hill gets a run on a wing, Buller gets a run in fullback, we have to wait and see. We've then got Trey Penny and Josh Felitti. We spoke about Felitti he's coming out of Manly. He's SG ball captain for Balmain this coming season. And Trey Penny is another centre, like Felitti, who's been in the junior system for a couple of years. Penny come out of maybe the Dragons, I want to say, but I might be wrong there. But yeah, he's been around the traps for a little bit. On a few of the Polynesian boys' social medias too a little bit. I think he's one of the lads that likes to play a bit of b-ball, shoot a few hoops.
Yep. Yeah, I've seen him on the West Tigers socials. So yeah. Again,
All right.
I know about Josh Felitti. Like we talked about him a little bit in our first few pods. Penny, never heard of him. So I think I need to do a little bit more research about my pathway players.
Yeah, it's good fun reading, but sometimes you got to sift through it. And like I said, sometimes you're trying to collate information from a bunch of different sources that aren't always the most reliable. So look, we'll know more when we see a couple of these players on Thursday. So number 18 here in the reserves. This is a name I want you to remember. I'm going to say it 3 times. Fa'agutu, Fa'agutu, Fa'agutu. Chris Fa'agutu. He has come out of Marsden up here in Queensland. I said Wavell High a couple of weeks back. Coming out of Marsden High School. Australian schoolboy lock, starting Australian schoolboy lock. He's been in our system for a couple of years while he finished school. He's now down in our SG ball to start with, Magpies team. Won't be long before he's in flag, in my opinion. He's 18 years of age, turning 19 this year. Chris Fa'agutu is elite. So I'd mentioned it in a conversation today. As far as heaping expectation on forwards, as far as I'm concerned, he's the best junior forward in the club. And I've heard a few other people say the same thing. So I haven't seen him play. I haven't sat down and seen him play full games, but just from all the footage I've watched, all the replayed matches I've watched, highlight systems, and just from what other people are saying, the buzz around him, he's a special player. So think, and again, not speaking to the trajectory of his career, but think Jason Taumalolo in terms of type of player, wrecking ball, quick, um, hard hands, the whole lot.
He's just
Actually, Denon Kemp, bloke in a bar, did a reaction to his highlights package a week or two back. That's worth watching because he provides a lot of commentary on it, and you can see a fair bit out of it. Yeah, and he as well formed a similar opinion. Chris Fargutu, don't forget that one.
You have to watch that bloke in a bar.
Yeah,
That actually would be interesting.
yeah, and he's a lock too. So he might be, him and Matamua it might be forcing in years to come a way to get them both in the side. He's that good. Don't be surprised if you see him on an NRL interchange bench at some point this year.
Wow.
Mm. Yeah, and he just finished school. Sione Vahu, no idea. So number 19, I've read his name once or twice. Don't know the position he plays. I have a feeling he's a forward, but I don't have any information on him. Zane Kemro is a halfback. Oh, half. He's a half. Whether he's on any given day he plays halfback or 5'8". Was in the junior system up until I think he played Harold Matts, and then he went across to the Knights for a year, and then the Tigers have gotten him back, and he's playing. I think he's playing flag this year, or with a view maybe to play cup. I have to wait and see. But
for our
yeah,
that aren't quite aware of the levels, can you explain the difference between SG, flag, Harold Matts, all that?
yeah, yeah. So Harold Matthews is under 17s. So up to 17. You then go into SG Ball, which is your under 19s, and then Jersey Flag is under 21s. You can play in those competitions if you're eligible. So players that are of age under that age can play in that competition. If you are good enough, you can play in Flag if you're 18. You can play in Flag if you're 17. I don't know that there's limitations on that. And then obviously you're going to New South Wales Cup. So that's a relatively tiered system as you would move up in the age levels. But obviously, depending on the ability of said player, it's whether or not they follow that traditional progression or not. So you have Harold Matts, 17s, SG Ball, 19s, Jersey Flag, 21s, New South Wales Cup, NRL.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So Zane Camero was a half. Yeah, he was with us when he was younger. Harold Matts, as far as I'm aware, went to Newcastle. And then we got him back. He landed back with us and he's in the system. So I've heard that he's pretty good. I haven't heard anything outstanding. We haven't exactly been clamoring to say he's an heir apparent like we have the likes of Talon De Silva and stuff in hooker. So yeah, I actually haven't seen Zane Camero play. So I can't comment on him.
Yeah, I can't say I've ever seen him play either. I've heard of him.
Yep.
Never seen him play.
So the final four that round out who are named are Sione Fainu, Ruan Natakora, Alex Seafarth. Probably don't need to comment on Seafarth. We know what we're getting with him.
Yep.
And Tony or Tennis Sukar. Tony Sukar, as far as I know, is Jersey Flag captain or co-Jersey Flag captain. He's a forward. He's a prop. Very Alex Twal style player, as far as I know. I think he's also Lebanese. Same as Twally. So they're probably, similar backgrounds, maybe similar types of players. I don't know for sure. But the other one I guess we could comment on was Ruan Natakora.
Yep. Apparently cheese me too.
Yeah. Yeah. What you saw a little bit of him, or we saw a little bit of him in the trials last year.
And then I saw a little bit of him in the New South Wales Cup before he got in.
He broke his leg last season. Yeah.
Look, it's a big call to say that, he's like Brandon Smith, very similar, but it is the truth. Even the way he runs is very similar to Brandon Smith. Like you think about the way that Brandon Smith runs, he's very low to the ground. It hunches a little bit sometimes. Obviously just center of gravity or to duck if he needs to. But yeah, that's another player that, like, we're talking about Matamua playing lock. He could even force his way because of his versatility.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think he's played both. He's played lock and hooker. He could even do to be honest, probably a Ruben Cotter style role. The way he plays, high impact, and just play like small prop.
Yeah,
small hard prop. I think that is definitely a position or a style of selection in this day and age in this type of game that works quite well. The same way that Brandon Smith has been named at prop on one or two occasions. I think it does work in certain situations. Yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do. By all reports, I think he was a captain of Flegg a couple of years ago. So he's a leader, well respected, well, a very respectful young man. I like Rua because he tucks his shirt in. I'm a big, just funny. It stands out just on the training paddock, and even in the match as well. Nobody tucks their jersey in, so it's
Why
funny.
would you?
He does stand out. So hey,
Why would you?
back in the day, everyone did it with socks up, jerseys in, but
Yeah, up is still a thing, and
different
now
story
that
this day and age.
socks down,
Yeah,
show some respect for the colours you play. But
I like it.
had my
Shows
jersey.
an old school humility. I like it. And then Sione Fano. So Sione Fano out of Manly came across about 18 months ago. I think he's the eldest of the famous Fano brothers, of which Latu is their gun 5'8" coming through in SG Ball this year. And he is an absolute weapon. This is Latu Fano over at Manly. We've got Sione, who's a prop, as far as I understand, maybe prop come second rower. Yeah, we mentioned his name, I think, last week. I haven't heard any particular special raps. I haven't heard that he's killing it or going terrible. So we'll wait and see. I think he's just another forward. So yeah, we'll be able to see what he's got to offer. So looking at the time there, I get confused with daylight saving times, but I'm assuming 5 p.m. is New South Wales time. So for those up in Queensland, will be 4 p.m. Is that right?
I read it was 4:30 p.m. Queensland time.
That
So
might be kickoff. Yeah. Yeah, so coverage might start at 4 and then kick off 4:30 or 5:30 in New South Wales and beyond.
It starts off at 4:30 on KO. So
yeah, okay, yeah, all right. Well, there you go. Well, it'll be good. I'm excited to see the football back.
I'm so excited.
I think I might be watching this particular game on delay. I might, weather permitting, I might be on the golf course on Thursday afternoon. So we'll see how we go. But nonetheless, we'll most definitely be watching this game with excitement, to be honest. But a perfect example to be able to watch a bunch of names, that are in our system. Both those that have blown in recently and maybe have a bit of experience, and those that are up and coming. So yeah, it's always good to see.
Yeah,
don't expect miracles.
No. Well, it's a trial. Why would you expect miracles in a trial?
Yeah. Look, trial, regardless of the result, trial form means little to nothing. That is so true. It's nearly become a cliche at this point, but sometimes teams go out there particularly to try to make a statement, and that doesn't always mean a whole lot at all.
I can probably count on two hands the amount of trial games the Storm have won.
Yeah, there you go.
So
yeah, and that speaks volumes, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Probably the most dominant team of the NRL era, very easily.
All right, so
they cheated for 4 years, but that's okay.
Yeah, nobody's hanging on to that. Maybe Parramatta fans.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of Parramatta, there's a young man over there. I can say young man over there. Oh, he's well and truly younger than us. By the name of Michel Malsis. And he plays halfback for the Parramatta Eels. Now, he is technically able to negotiate with other clubs, and he's been technically negotiating with the West Tigers or Parramatta to re-sign us down to 2 clubs. We've been speaking about it almost ad nauseum the last couple of weeks. That's fantastic. You're on there, Toby. Forgot you're on stream for a moment, but that's all right. And we said last week that come this podcast, we both thought he would be signed. He's not.
We were both wrong.
We were both wrong. Any updates in the last week?
Not from my sources, and my sources are nowhere near as extensive as yours.
Believe me, I've been trolling the interwebs left, right, and centre to try to find something. Give me something, Mitchell. But not a whole lot is coming to fruition. And now we've got him giving statements at press conferences today, and people are trolling through his body language and the things he says. And was he trying to allude to this and that? And bottom line is he hasn't made a decision. He hasn't signed with either club, but he did say today that he wants it sorted out prior to the season, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's funny, we were talking last week, and all indication was we did look like we were in the box seat. We looked like he was gonna make the money decision and move back over for a lot more. But then basically as soon as we got off air and I went just scrolling through some chatter and some sources, apparently he's already re-signed with the Eels. He just hasn't announced it. So who knows what's right and what's wrong anymore.
Yep. And that was, I guess, late last week. But then that chat disappeared because we'd heard that he was out a couple of weekends ago and, told the boys in the squad that this is via 3 or 4 Chinese whispers that he's staying. Then that disappeared. And now in the last couple of days since, the chat has become stronger that the feeling is that there was a deal done last Thursday out at Concord at Tigerland, and that they're just trying to organise possible early releases and maybe some monumental trades to make that happen. So, it's back in the Tigers' court. So,
Yeah.
it goes without saying that at this stage, it's all speculation. I'm a little bit exhausted and over it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I think at this stage we just sort of sit back, kick back, and know that in about 3 weeks or so we should have an answer one way or the other, if not beforehand.
Yeah. Well, and then there was also the fact that he was I don't know, can't remember exactly. It might have been the tennis or the cricket. I can't exactly remember, but he was in a box seat, and there was just talks of him, meeting a fan, but he was arm in arms with Brooksy in the box. So there's speculation there. I'm like, they're just best mates who caught up for a game.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And that's what everyone's been reduced to. And that's what happens with these types of signing circuses, particularly when players lately, like they tend to do, they just put it off rather than just biting the bullet, finding the best offers and going for it. But
yeah, exactly.
he'll make a decision when he makes a decision, and either we'll sign him or we don't.
Yep. And then the other news that we keep harping on about is JB coming over and finally getting on Australian soil. Now, apparently, all the news is saying that he actually had surgery over in England and he's waiting to recover from that. Broke his foot or something like that?
No, he had an old ankle syndesmosis injury. So it's a old high ankle sprain that people were speculating might have been a problem. He was carrying it a little bit through the World Cup and had a small bit of treatment at the back end of last year to get it sorted. It's got nothing to do with it. I think people are just looking for reasons. The bottom line is they've just been trying to sort out his visa. By all reports, he should be on his way next week. And when I say by all reports, that's from Instagram snoopers that picked up the fact that a couple of people that had tagged him in some things that he'd done have said that all the best for your trip next week back to Australia. So, like I said in a pod or two ago, I fully expect him to be here around the time of that second trial. I don't think he'll play in it, but I think he'll be here mid-Feb, and we're still on track for that.
Yeah. It's not as if he's not keeping fit either. I follow him on Instagram and he's training the house down. So
yeah,
he's got to obviously get over here and gel with the boys.
Yeah. So that'll take a bit of time, but as Sheen said last week in an interview, he's here for 4 years most likely. So a couple of weeks of preseason in that first season, in the long term, playing the long game doesn't really mean anything. Here and now, we want our players here for this new exciting season with these new recruits and a new uplifted squad. But, the second that we get sort of 2 or 3 weeks into April, we'll forget all about the fact that he was a couple of weeks late.
100%. But hopefully for a good reason. Hopefully not because we're drowning our sorrow.
Or hoping to stick him back on a plane home again.
Yeah. I don't think
wait and see.
I don't think that
Yeah. All right, mate. So let's just jump into a bit of a finisher for us here for Thursday. So with the trial match, give me three. We went through the list. Give me three names that you're looking forward to seeing something out of, and what do you want to see specifically out of those three? Who are you tuning in to watch on Thursday?
First one's Buller because I want to see what Sheensy sees in him. I want to see the hype.
Yep.
The second one is actually is seeing Tommy Talau back. I want to see how he goes. I want to see how he recovers.
Yep.
And actually, the other one is Tristan O'Reilly. I want to see how he goes at 5'8".
Tristan.
3. So,
Yep.
what about
Okay.
you?
I agree with Tommy. I'm keen to see Tommy Talau back playing again.
Yep.
I'm keen to see how he is physically. He's had, a year and a half to get himself back right. So I don't expect him to have any lag or any post ACL issues, at least physically, maybe mentally, but at least physically. I expect him to hit the ground running. So I expect him to look pretty good. I'll let you have Buller. I'm keen to see him a little bit. But I'm actually keen to see the second row pairing. So I want to see how Polo goes in second row to see if he holds up out wide. I think his skill set's going to transfer. I'm keen to see it. But then likewise, I'm keen to see Toomuth in a starting role in a game that I'm watching, live telecast.
Yep.
So that's three, but I guess I cheated and I combined the second rowers.
No, you're out. You're done.
So the last one is my man Gutu. So I'm keen to see him have a run in a West Tigers jersey and see televised what he's got to offer at this young stage of his development. I talked him up a bit now, so
Yeah,
I guess I probably have to put him in that list.
But yeah, no, I'm so excited to watch it again. Like you, I'll be watching it on replay. I work 9 to 5, so can't really do much about that, but I'll be watching on replay. Yeah, super keen just to see some footy again.
Mm.
I was even tempted to watch the Broncos Wynnum game on the weekend. But
did you have to have a shower after that,
yeah,
having thoughts like that?
I know, right? I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Yeah, horrible.
Yeah. I actually wouldn't mind watching the Dolphins first game too.
Yeah, actually, I agree with that. Definitely. I'm keen to see him. Without having them officially join the comp yet, having played a game, I'm a bit of a soft spot for him already.
Yeah,
With
me
a
too.
few family links and stuff, and I hate Brisbane Broncos, so
Yep. Yeah, I think
I reckon I'll sub root for them.
I think you and I are both in agreement that that's our local team.
Yeah,
They'll never
definitely.
take the place of the Tigers, but even though I threatened it last year,
Mm.
I
Yeah,
threatened.
you weren't the name Dolphin Boy at one stage. You never were, but you were that close to throwing in the towel from
Oh, I was just so over.
West Tigers, at least for a little while.
Yeah, but I think that's if it was only the first year of the podcast last year. That listeners don't know that's pretty much me at the end of every year. So
Well, at least in the last decade, anyway. Eh?
exactly.
This year we might have something else to smile about.
Oh, well,
Fool's gold, false hope, as they say. No, this year has a different feel about it. Absolutely, different feel, different direction, and yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm excited. I'm pumped. I'm ready to rock and roll. Thursday, I'm going to be really excited Thursday. And that's a really early game. So I'll get home, do what needs to be done. Put the kid to bed, and sit down and enjoy watching a bit of footy.
yeah, 100%. And it's funny that you said it has a different feel about it this year. I don't know if you read that article from Brent Reed. He's drinking the Kool-Aid as well. So
Yeah, he's drinking that black, white, and gold Kool-Aid. Reedy.
that's right.
Yeah, Reedy's funny. He's in the Buzz Rothfield section with me. Some of his hot takes are just so bad, but they're
No one can
But
overtake.
anyway,
No one can overtake Buzz with the amount of shit that comes out of his mouth.
oh mate. But if Reedy's pro Tigers, I love him. He's great. Brent Reed. Oh yeah, Reedy's stuff. He's great.
Like watching Paul Gallen play for the Sharks, can't stand him. Watching him play for New South Wales, loved him.
Oh yeah, same with Greg Bird.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
like I said, different shirt, hate him.
Yeah,
Different shirt, love him. Yeah, he's great.
great.
Mate, it's going to be fantastic. So Thursday, the 9th of Feb, we spoke about daylight savings issues at the start of the season. So make sure you don't miss it. But I'm sure you'll be able to watch it on replay on KO if you have access to it. If you don't, what are you doing? It's cheap. Go and get it. It's great. KO's wonderful. So 4 o'clock Queensland time, I think coverage starts. You're saying games 4:30. I'm assuming games 5:30 then in New South Wales, or for our friends across the ditch. I don't know. What would it be? 7:30? Yeah, 2 hours, I think. Yeah. So very, very exciting. I'm very excited. I'm pumped if you can't already tell. Make sure you tune in. Public service announcement, as always, folks. If you got us on YouTube, like, subscribe. You know the drill. It all helps, and it helps you know when we're dropping our episodes. But generally speaking, we're on a Wednesday unless Toby forgets to upload, like we did last week. We're a little bit late, but
Yeah,
you know,
I think
uh, what do they say? Absence makes the heart grow fonder. So I'm sure everybody was sitting there with bated breath waiting for last week's episode when it finally dropped. Same with the Facebook page. Make sure you hop on Tiger Town Podcast. Can't be too hard to find. Growing all the time. Comment, interact with us with sharing Mitchell Moses non-stories lately, and letting you know when all the episodes and podcasts drop. As we've been doing a little bit lately as well, if you haven't already checked out the other two much bigger West Tigers podcasts, they are absolute beauties. There's West Life podcast, Josh and the boys over there, and we've got the West Tigers podcast. Very straight to the point. Name that one. Make sure you check those guys out. They do wonderful stuff. That's it for us for this evening, mate. Number 4, episode 4, the last what would we call this? The last pre-season podcast before football starts back in some capacity.
to an extent, sure.
To a degree, right?
Yeah,
Trials of footy.
season to go, but
That's true. Long season too.
what we should say. This is the last off-season podcast.
There we go. Done. I like it.
Yep.
You got away with words, my man.
I know,
Last
right?
off-season podcast. He's just about to come to a close. So find a TV set with KO on it on Thursday, the 9th of February, because you're going to want to sit down and enjoy a couple of the young fellas run around. I've been Zac. He's been Toby. What do we always say, Toby?
Go the Tigers.
Go the mighty Tigers.